A warning to the curious. The stories you're about to hear are not just tales, they are real accounts of disappearances that have left even the most hardened investigators grasping at shadows. But by listening, you may be inviting something into your life. These mysteries have a way of reaching out, of pulling their listeners in. So before we begin, ask yourself, are you certain you'll make it home from your next trip? The open road. For many, it's a place of escape, freedom, and adventure. But for others, it's the last place they are ever seen. Tonight, we unravel the chilling mysteries of 3 vanishings that began on U.S. highways and have never ended. Stories that whisper to us from the void, reminding us that the road doesn't just lead somewhere, it may also lead nowhere. The vanishing of Brandon Swanson. It's May 14th, 2008, a brisk spring night in rural Minnesota. 19-year-old Brandon Swanson has just finished celebrating the end of his first year of college. The world feels open and full of possibilities, and the dark roads stretching before him are simply another step toward home. But what starts as a routine drive ends in a baffling and terrifying mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Brandon had planned to spend the summer mapping out his future, taking on new opportunities, reconnecting with family and friends. But a wrong turn, a miscalculation, or perhaps something more sinister marked his final hours. The details of Brandon's disappearance are deceptively simple. His car was found abandoned on a gravel road near the town of Porter, Minnesotan area, surrounded by endless fields, quiet creeks, and suffocating darkness. The scene should have yielded clues, but instead, it raised questions that have haunted his family and the investigators for over a decade. On the phone with his parents, Brandon's voice carried no fear. He calmly described his predicament: this car stuck in a shallow ditch, wheels spinning uselessly. "Don't worry," he assured them. "I'll just walk toward the lights of a nearby town." Brandon wasn't lost, or at least he didn't think he was. But as the minutes ticked by, it became clear that something was terribly wrong. What happened next is the kind of moment that replays endlessly in the minds of those left behind. Brandon's father, Brian, recalls driving along dark, unfamiliar roads, desperately searching for his son. Over the phone, Brandon directed them, claiming he could see their car's headlights. "I see you," he said, a note of relief in his voice. But they didn't see him. And then silence. The line went dead, as if something or someone had abruptly ended the call. Did Brandon drop his phone? Was he startled by something in the dark? Or did he encounter someone on that lonely road? Someone he hadn't anticipated? From the moment the call disconnected, a desperate search began. Over the following days, local authorities, volunteers, and even search dogs combed through miles of wilderness. Fields were flattened by the boots of searchers, rivers dragged for clues, but not a single trace of Brandon was ever found. Investigators theorized that Brandon may have fallen into the Yellow Medicine River, a shallow but winding waterway near where his car was abandoned. But the river was searched thoroughly, and no evidence surfaced, not a piece of clothing, not a shred of DNA. If Brandon had fallen in, where was his body? And if he hadn't, where could he have gone? Some believe Brandon may have encountered foul play. The back roads of Minnesota are isolated, unlit, and easy to disappear into. Was there another car on that road? Someone who saw Brandon walking and decided to intervene. His family maintains he wouldn't have willingly gone with a stranger. But would fear or desperation have driven him to trust the wrong person? Others wonder if Brandon's calm demeanor on the phone hid something deeper. Did he know something he wasn't saying? Could someone have been watching him even as he spoke to his parents, a shadow lingering just out of sight? When he said, "I see the lights," did he mean their care or something else entirely? The case has also attracted attention from paranormal investigators. The rural roads of Minnesota have a long history of unexplained phenomena, ghost sightings, strange lights, and sudden disappearances. Could Brandon have encountered something that defied explanation? Local legends tell of strange orbs of light that appear on isolated roads, leading travelers astray before vanishing into thin air. Was Brandon's cryptic statement about seeing lights a clue, a desperate warning of what was to come? If so, what was it that lured him away and why? As the years pass, the questions grow louder. Was Brandon taken by someone familiar with the area? Someone who knew the labyrinth of gravel roads well enough to escape unnoticed? Or was his disappearance something no one could have foreseen? Even now, Brandon's parents keep their porch light on every night, hoping against hope that their son will find his way back home. But with no evidence, no sightings, and no leads, the road has swallowed Brandon Swanson whole, and it refuses to give him back. So, what did Brandon really see that night? And why does it feel like whatever took him is still waiting out there in the dark? The Route 29 Stalker. It's March 2, 1996. On the scenic Route 29 in Virginia stretch of road that winds through quiet, tree-lined countryside. The kind of drive that feels serene in daylight, but transforms into something far more sinister at night. 25-year-old Alicia Showalter Reynolds is behind the wheel, traveling to meet her mother for a day of shopping in Charlottesville. She's an intelligent, independent young woman with a bright future ahead of her. But somewhere along that highway, the road and her life takes a fatal turn. Alicia's car is found abandoned on the shoulder, the door ajar, her belongings left untouched. It's as if she simply vanished into the thick Virginia woods. As investigators descended upon Route 29, they uncovered a chilling pattern. Alicia's disappearance wasn't the first mysterious incident along this stretch of highway. Dozens of women had reported eerily similar experiences: a man driving an unmarked vehicle, flashing his lights or motioning for them to pull over, claiming something was wrong with their car. Some women escaped unharmed, shaken but alive, after realizing the man's intentions weren't to help. Others were never heard from again. The man, dubbed the Route 29 Stalker, became the focus of an intense manhunt. But like a shadow in the night, he slipped through the cracks, leaving only fear and suspicion in his wake. Forensic teams combed through Alicia's abandoned car. Her purse, credit cards, and other belongings were still there, undisturbed. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken glass, no blood. The scene felt staged, as if someone had carefully arranged it to erase any trace of what happened next. But why? And who was bold enough to abduct a woman in broad daylight on a busy highway? Weeks turned into months before there was a break in the case. On May 7, 1996, more than 2 months after Alicia disappeared, her remains were found in a wooded area nearly 15 miles from where her car had been abandoned. Decomposition had erased many of the vital clues, but the positioning of her body suggested she had been murdered shortly after her disappearance. Whoever took Alicia knew the area well. They knew where to hide a body where it wouldn't easily be found, where the trees and underbrush would shield them from prying eyes. But was this the work of a calculating predator who had been planning this for months? Or was it a crime of opportunity that spiraled into something far darker? One survivor's account painted a chilling picture of the stalker. She described him as polite but insistent, his demeanor shifting when she hesitated to follow his directions. She managed to drive away, shaken by the encounter. Another woman reported the same man weeks later, this time growing aggressive when she refused to exit her vehicle. Despite these encounters, police could never get a clear description of the stalker. His vehicle was unmarked, and his appearance seemed to change slightly in each report. Was he intentionally disguising himself, or were fear and adrenaline clouding his victims' memories? Even more unsettling, some survivors claimed they never saw where he came from. He simply appeared, as if emerging from the shadows of the highway itself. Could this man have been stalking Route 29 for years, watching, waiting and choosing his moments with surgical precision. As the investigation deepened, questions arose about the identity and motives of the Route 29 stalker. Was he a lone predator, acting on his own twisted impulses? Or was he part of a larger network, one that targeted vulnerable travelers on isolated roads? Some wondered if Alicia herself had been targeted deliberately. Did someone know she would be traveling that day? Could someone close to her have orchestrated her fate, using the stalker as a scapegoat? These theories, though chilling, remain speculative, adding yet another layer of mystery to an already confounding case. Others suggested Alicia's disappearance might be linked to a series of unsolved cases involving women who vanished near highways across the country. Could the Route 29 stalker have been a transient killer, moving from state to state to evade capture? And if so, how many more lives did he take before fading into obscurity? Even now, Route 29 holds a grim reputation. Many locals avoid it, especially at night, unwilling to take the risk of becoming the stalker's next victim. Some believe he's still out there, blending into the background, waiting for the right moment to strike again. And the lingering question remains: why did no one see what happened to Alicia that day? Did she trust the wrong person? Was she coerced, or was she taken by force? What's more terrifying, an unseen predator watching from the shadows, or the possibility that someone witnessed Alicia's fate and chose to stay silent? If you're ever driving along a lonely highway and see someone flagging you down, think twice before stopping. Alicia Showalter Reynolds' story is a sobering reminder that danger doesn't always come from the dark. It can come from the very person who seems to offer help. And the Route 29 stalker, he's still out there, somewhere. Perhaps he's found a new stretch of highway, a new hunting ground. Or perhaps he's waiting for the next unwitting traveler to make a fatal mistake. So the next time someone waves you down on the side of the road, ask yourself, are you prepared to take the risk? The mysterious death of Patricia Meehan. It's April 20th, 1989, and the cold, star-streaked skies of Montana stretch endlessly above Interstate 94. Patricia Meehan, a 37-year-old ranch worker with an easy smile and an unassuming life, is driving along the highway. Her car collides head-on with another vehicle, setting in motion a series of events that baffle investigators and terrify anyone who hears her story. Witnesses describe what happened next as deeply unsettling. Patricia doesn't approach the wreck to check on the other driver or herself. Instead, she stands silently, staring at the scene as if detached from reality, her wide eyes reflecting the confusion and horror of those around her. And then, without a word, she walks away into the darkness of the Montana wilderness, never to be seen again. The details of that fateful night remain shrouded in mystery. According to the driver of the other vehicle, Patricia's behavior was anything but normal. Instead of showing panic or concern, she seemed almost hypnotized, as if the crash had severed her from the present moment. She walked into the night without her purse, keys, or any belongings, just her body, slipping away into the abyss of the Montana plains. Within hours, search teams were dispatched. Helicopters scanned the area, and trackers scoured the rugged terrain for any sign of her. But Patricia was gone. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed her whole, leaving only questions behind. To understand Patricia's disappearance, investigators delved into her past. Friends and family described her as a gentle soul, though they admitted she'd been struggling with something beneath the surface. Days before the crash, Patricia had confided to a friend that she felt she needed a change, that her life had become stagnant. A deeper look revealed Patricia had recently left her job, and some speculated she was dealing with emotional stress or even mental health issues. Was the crash a tragic accident, or was Patricia fleeing something in her life, something too overwhelming to face? But those who knew her best insist she wasn't the kind of person to simply vanish. Patricia loved her family, her work, and her quiet life in Montana. So, what drove her into the darkness that night? For weeks after the crash, search teams combed the area around Interstate 94. The rugged landscape, filled with jagged rocks, dense patches of forest, and open fields, provided ample places to to disappear forever. Investigators found footprints leading away from the crash site, but they abruptly stopped, as if Patricia had taken flight. Search dogs picked up her scent but lost it near a ridge, where the wind whipped through the canyons, scattering clues like leaves. Theories began to swirl. Some believed Patricia had succumbed to the elements, her body hidden in a crevice or carried away by wildlife. Others suggested she'd suffered a head injury in the crash, causing disorientation and memory loss. If that was the case, could Patricia still be alive somewhere, unaware of who she was? Over the years, dozens of people have claimed to see Patricia or someone who looks just like her in small Montana towns. One report came from a diner where a waitress served a woman matching Patricia's description. She ate in silence, avoided eye contact, and left without saying a word. Another sighting placed her at a convenience store, wandering the aisles aimlessly before disappearing into the night. These accounts are haunting, but none have ever been confirmed. Could they be real, or are they the result of small-town folklore, where stories grow and evolve over time? Even more chilling are the rumors of ghostly apparitions near the crash site. Truck drivers have reported seeing a lone woman standing on the side of the highway, her expression blank, her figure disappearing as they approach. Could Patricia's spirit be lingering, searching for the answers she couldn't find in life? Not everyone believes Patricia's disappearance was an accident. Some point to the strange timing of the crash and her recent emotional turmoil as evidence of a more deliberate plan. Did Patricia stage her own disappearance, walking away from a life she no longer wanted? Others have floated darker theories. The area around Interstate 94 is remote, but it's not without its dangers. Was Patricia picked up by someone on the highway? Someone who offered help but had ulterior motives? If that's the case, why hasn't any evidence of foul play ever emerged? And then there's the unnerving possibility that Patricia met her fate in the wilderness but not alone. Some locals whisper of strange occurrences in the area lights in the sky, disembodied voices and figures that don't belong. Could Patricia have encountered something beyond explanation? Something that defies the boundaries of what we understand as reality? Years have passed, but Patricia Meehan's case remains open, her fate a haunting void in the minds of investigators and her family. Is she alive, wandering the fringes of society, lost in her own mind? Or did the wilderness claim her that night, erasing her from the world as completely as a shadow disappearing at dawn? If Patricia chose her disappearance, what was she running from? And if she didn't, what or who was waiting for her on that dark stretch of highway? The most terrifying mysteries are the ones with no answers, the ones that leave us staring into the void, searching for meaning where there is none. Patricia Meehan's story is one of those mysteries. She walked into the darkness, leaving behind a world desperate for her return. But as the highway stretches on, empty and silent, one can't help but wonder, is Patricia's story truly over, or is it still unfolding in some shadowed corner of Montana? And when you find yourself driving alone at night, will you catch a glimpse of her, standing in the periphery of your headlights, watching, waiting, before vanishing once again into the unknown? 3 stories, 3 lives lost to the vast and unforgiving stretches of American highways. Brandon Swanson, a young man who vanished into the void of a dark rural road, leaving his parents haunted by the last words they heard. I see the lights. Alicia Showalter Reynolds, a bright young woman stolen by a predator who still lurks in the shadows of Route 29. His identity a ghostly specter that looms over every empty mile. Patricia Meehan, a woman who stepped away from the wreckage of her life and walked into the night. her fate sealed by the unknown forces of the wilderness, or perhaps by something far more sinister. But these are just 3 stories. The highways of the world are vast, and their shadows are long. They hide countless tales of disappearance and despair. The open road is freedom for some, but for others, it's a one-way path to the abyss. For those drawn to the inexplicable, there are more cases that echo the same chilling themes. Roads that swallow people whole, leaving behind only whispers of what might have happened. Mara Murray, 2004, New Hampshire. After crashing her car in a snowbank, Mara vanished into the night. Despite years of searching, not a single trace has been found. Was it foul play, or did Mara disappear deliberately? The Jamison family, 2009, Oklahoma. A family of 3 disappeared during a trip to look at property in a remote area. Their skeletal remains were found years later, but the cause of their deaths remains a chilling mystery. The Bennington Triangle, Vermont, 1940s. A cluster of bizarre disappearances in a remote region, with no bodies, clues, or explanations. Locals speak of strange lights, creatures, and an unshakable feeling of dread. The Yuba County 5, 1978, California. 5 men disappeared on a remote mountain road. 4 bodies were later found, but their deaths were shrouded in mystery, their final moments a puzzle that defies logic. Brian Schaefer, 2006, Ohio. Brian entered a Columbus bar and was never seen again. Security footage shows no evidence of him leaving. Did he slip away unnoticed, or was he taken? Paula Jean Weldon, 1946, Vermont. The 18-year-old disappeared while hiking a popular trail. Decades later, no clues have surfaced, fueling speculation about foul play or a step into another dimension. The disappearance of Rico Harris, 2014, California. A former basketball star vanished along Highway 16. His abandoned car was found, but Rico himself seemed to evaporate into thin air. The Springfield 3, 1992, Missouri. 3 women vanished from their home without a struggle, leaving no signs of forced entry. The highway looms as a possible path to their unknown fates. A final warning. Each of these cases shares one unshakable truth. The answers are out there, somewhere on roads like the one you might drive tonight. The highways are indifferent. They don't care about your destination or your safety. They only whisper their secrets when they feel like it. But now, here's the question that lingers for you, the listener. Why didn't you heed the warning at the start of this story? Why did you stay to the end, knowing that curiosity often comes at a cost? Right now, another story is unfolding. Somewhere in the shadows of another stretch of road, someone is asking for help. Someone is stepping into a car they shouldn't trust. Someone is walking away from the light. And you? They know you're watching. They've seen your interest, your need to uncover the truth. They're waiting for you, the next lonely stretch of highway, under the next burned-out streetlight. So, the next time you hit the open road, remember, the highways are watching you too, and sometimes they never let you go. If these real-life stories have chilled you as much as they've haunted us, don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries. Share your theories in the comments. Who knows, maybe you hold the missing piece to solving these cases.